All right, so this is my final presentation about my website that I made concerning Ghana. And this is my husband, and he's reviewed the website, and he has some questions for me. But first, I'm going to kind of go over what the 8 millennial goals are, actually. So the millennial goals are, there's 8 different goals, and they start with poverty and hunger. They go to education, gender equality, child mortality, maternal health, AIDS and HIV, and then sustainability and global partnership are the last 2. So the millennial goals they were established, and they kind of followed the Millennial Summit of the United Nations back in 2000. And all the United Nations members came together on a committee to help achieve these goals, and they wanted to have them achieved by 2015. And they all kind of made a promise that they would try and get them done in their specific countries. And they want to have these goals all established in the developing countries in 2015. So that's a little bit about the goals. So what was your first question for me?
How does gender equality in Ghana compare to the United States?
All right, so gender equality is quite a bit different than it is here, just because here women want to be so equal to men, and we want to have jobs rather than staying at home, and we want to make sure that we have as much power as men do. Back in Ghana, the domestic violence in Ghana happens to be 1 in every 3 women in Ghana, which is a ton. Out of 3 women, one has been in trouble with domestic violence before. There's a belief in Ghana that it is socially acceptable to hit women or to discipline their spouse, when these days that's obviously not the case, and a lot of people go to jail for violence towards their spouse. According to 2011, 60% of Ghanaian women hold to the view that husbands justify beating their wives for a variety of reasons, and those reasons don't make sense to them. But in Ghana, they say that if they burn their food, that's allowed for them to hit women, or if if she's seen another partner, obviously that one makes more sense. But if she steals, if she gossips about him, anything like that, then it's acceptable to hit her. Like I said, in the United States, that's completely different, because none of those things are acceptable, and we're able to be as equal to men as much power as they can have. But one of the solutions that I came up with for this issue on gender equality is that I think the government needs to be more involved in making sure that they know when this violence is taking place, and I think that women need to have more of a right to speak, so that they're not afraid to come out and say, my husband is beating me, or I feel like I'm in trouble, because right now they are too afraid to go to somebody because they don't want to, then if they tell on him, then he'll get more upset. So anyways, that's about gender equality. What is your next question?
How are the people in Ghana affected by AIDS?
All right, so I have a tab on my Weebly website that I did, and it's about maternal health and AIDS. I'm going to that right now. Maybe. All right. Well, while that loads, in Ghana, it's very AIDS and HIV is very high, the rate there, just because of the sanitation levels. They don't have water that's sanitary, so when they drink their water, they can receive any kind of disease through that. A lot of men want to sleep around, and that's how it gets spread easily, just by relationship wise. But like I said, just the living conditions that they're in right now really cause a lot of problems when it comes to AIDS and HIV, and they don't have any way to prevent that, just because they're not advanced enough right now. They're trying to come up with medicine, but they can't quite get it into their country quite yet. So, third question.
And what is the education system like in Ghana?
So in Ghana, especially compared to the United States, we live in a country where we're free and we can choose to go to school really anywhere we want. But in Ghana, it's very, because of the living conditions, they live a lot far. They live like on the rural sides of the country, so they're unable to get to schools. Especially in Ghana, it's really rare for women to go to school because they're the ones that need to stay home with the children, and they really do everything. Like when I was researching some of the things about Ghana and education, they just said that it was really hard for women to go to school and like develop their dreams because men look down on that, the country looked down on that because they should be at home, they should be taking care of the children, they do everything. You like seen the typical pictures of women carrying the water on their heads or carrying the food. They do most of the labor there, where the men just kind of sit around, which is a lot different here. So Ghana with each goal. So if I start with goal number 1, poverty and hunger. Because it is a developing country, they're struggling right now with the poverty rates and getting food, but not only because of the places where they're at, but it's hard for them with their global partnership levels to be able to import food into their country right now. So to get that, they're trying to grow their own crops and things, but with the land and like their sustainability levels, it's just a lot harder to be able to sustain food and to be able get past the poverty and hunger. We talked about education, gender equality. Child mortality isn't too bad. I don't think that they're struggling with child mortality as much as other developing countries. Their rates aren't high. They're like 32nd out of all the developing countries, which I guess isn't too bad. Obviously, we'd like to make that number lower, but that's not too big of an issue right now out of all the other goals. Maternal health. They do have an issue with maternal health just because people are very uneducated about how to birth babies, I guess. So they don't really have a lot of doctors there to help them figure out how to do it with the most cleanliness, I guess. So we need to find out a better way to be able to improve maternal health, because right now they're having children and either the mother dies or the baby has serious issues because nothing's clean. They don't have the resources to birth babies. We talked about HIV and AIDS. So sustainability, I mentioned a little bit. They're trying to grow their own crops right now, and they're doing okay sustaining it. But at the same time, you could always do better. I think it's just the education level. If people were more aware of the issue, then they, be able to fix it. Global partnership. I would have to say that they are on a 2.0 level, which is Thomas Friedman talks about globalization, and 2.0 is where they're kind of working with multinational companies, but they're not quite to 3.0 yet, where they can be on the competitive playing field, because they have a hard time keeping pace with the rising house deficit, and their living conditions are just deteriorating, so it's harder for them to get to the 3.0 level. 7 million Ghanaians lack access to sanitation, which is most of their problem. So many of their companies in Ghana work together, but they're finally at a point where they're beginning to become stable, so maybe they can complete globally eventually. So how many goals should there be? I don't think that having 8 goals is such a bad idea, just because why not try to develop in all areas. I don't think there's a goal that needs to be gotten rid of. Just because, like I said, focusing on each area and making sure, especially by 2015, I think it's going to be a little harder just because we're a year away, but making sure that we get those goals accomplished by then would be great. The goal in Ghana that I think is most needed would be probably, I don't know, I have toss up between like gender equality and poverty and hunger. Just because I feel like I want the women to have their rights and to stop being beaten by their wives, but at the same time I think poverty and hunger affects more people there, so maybe that one's the goal that's needed most, number 1. Couple more questions. So how can the country improve? I think that number 1 would just to be educated. I would send some people over there that are looking for an opportunity to go and help and volunteer and educate the people in Ghana in order to solve these different development goals. But for the future of Ghana, I think that they're doing pretty well. They're developing, and they're, at least in the main parts, in the cities, they're not doing too bad. But in the rural areas, I think, like I said, it's just sanitation and making sure that they're educated on how to live, how to be clean, and how to sustain themselves, I guess, in order to get to be established in these goals by 2015. So, hope that it works out, but I guess we'll see. Thank you for letting me teach you about Ghana.